This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Do you play FanDuel and feel like you aren't creating consistent money-making lineups? Go over to the DFS Doctors on Twitter at the DFS Doctors and DM them with promo code Detroit Sports to get a free trial for their analytically formulated 70% lifetime profit rate NFL and NBA lineups. The whole purpose of playing daily fantasy sports is to get out there and compete and give yourself a chance to win. So go over to the DFS Doctors. Let them help you. They have analysts on staff that look at the best optimal lineup that you can put out there to win money. So why not take advantage? At the DFS Doctors, promo code Detroit Sports.
CBD is a game changer sweeping the nation. This hemp extract is the natural way to elevate your mood, eliminate aches and pains, reduce anxiety, and keep you sleeping all night long. It can even cut your workout recovery time in half. Get in the game today with 20% off all orders of CBD and lavender products from Lavender Lane, a lavender farm located right here in Milan, Michigan. Just go to lavenderlanemi.com today and enter coupon code Detroit for 20% off your entire order. Guys, look, these amazing products are infused with calming lavender to maximize their effectiveness, meaning your CBD items only take minutes to take effect, which is way quicker than those pills you were about to swallow. On top of it, they are perfect for men and women. Lavender Lane has lab-tested CBD creams, tinctures, and roll-ons that are perfect for any situation, even if you're on the go. Put your health back in your hands by heading over to lavenderlanemi.com and entering coupon code Detroit for 20% off your entire order of CBD and lavender products. What do you have to lose? Your satisfaction is guaranteed or your money back. So if you need lavender gifts for your loved ones or just looking for the natural way to ease your discomfort with CBD, go to lavenderlanemi.com and use coupon code Detroit to unlock these miraculous benefits of CBD and lavender. That's lavenderlanemi.com. And remember, use coupon code DETROIT for 20% off your CBD and lavender products from Michigan's own Lavender Lane.
Is there a sports podcast in Detroit that people are talking about?
Hey, everybody, this is Freddie Cohen of ESPN Radio. When I'm not talking about breaking news or breaking news on ESPN Radio, I'm always a fan and listen to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
Welcome in, everybody, to the latest edition of Doc and Jock. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Joining me, my cousin Adam, the Jock Strozinski. Looking forward to another great broadcast. What's up, my cousin? What's happening?
Not a whole lot, man. Interesting the way these NFL playoffs have kind of played out. I don't know, man. It just weird, right? Just you couldn't have predicted this if your life depended on it.
It was a great weekend to watch football. 3 days, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. It was awesome, man. I got to catch a lot of the action. I think the teams that are remaining in the NFL, AFC, NFC, man, it's going to make for a great AFC and NFC title games.
Oh, yeah.
The games were awesome, man.
Really good.
The Titans, the Chiefs, Green Bay, 49ers. I just felt like, wow. And when you dig deep, you realize it's interesting that it kind of always seems like when the Detroit Lions start to kind of follow the trends, then a new trend establishes itself. Running attack, bro. The teams that are remaining rush the hell out of the football. People have done a deeper dive this year. The teams that were at the top of the rushing this year actually made the postseason. So again, it kind of lends to if the Detroit Lions want to maybe add that final piece. Yes, you got to work on the defense, but maybe, just maybe, the final piece that the Lions have been missing is that stud running back. And like we've said, and that's why maybe you and I in previous podcasts have said maybe the Lions should look at Kareem Hunt. Maybe they should look at some of these guys that can maybe be a home run threat. The rushing attack. The Lions have never really had that bell cow guy, but they don't believe in that. They want to kind of use the system of like 2 and 3 running backs. And for me personally, you start to see the excitement. People are like, oh, Kerryon Johnson, Bo Scarborough, Ty Johnson. I look at that and go, really? That's not enough for me? No, go out there and upgrade that talent. And so for me, and we'll talk about it a little bit later on in this segment, if there's that running back, maybe a Jonathan Taylor, maybe, somebody from Georgia, maybe
That's my dude. Jonathan Taylor's my dude.
If you can find an avenue maybe to get another running back with more talent, maybe you do that in the second round. But my biggest surprise over the last, round of the postseason, I'm just so fascinated that a team like Kansas City can get down that much. And I saw a tweet, and I if I was a hardcore
in less
gambler,
than 15 minutes of game clock,
I was shocked. Brandon Tierney was like, "If I don't gamble," but he's like, "Don't sell out on, don't give up on the Kansas City Chiefs." And within moments, 2 plays later, there's a turnover. What is Bill O'Brien doing at this point in time with all that experience? You're calling shitty plays on 4th down to give the momentum. How do you not have a good play call? If you can't earn a 4th down and 1, you deserve to lose. And then once the momentum kicked in, oh my God, dude. That would be awesome because, of course, as Lions fans and supporters, all I kept thinking was, we'd be on this is exactly how the Lions would lose their home game. They'd be up 21-0, everything's going good. Oh, there's a fumble, and the opponent scores 40 points in a row and deflates everybody, get our hopes up. That's probably the only thing left for the fans of Detroit to experience is actually get to the postseason, have the lead, have everything going good in the fourth quarter, be up by a lot with 8 minutes left, and bam, it's over. How do the Texans lose that game?
Within 15 minutes of game clock, you end up giving everything back. Like total control of the game. And you're like, here you go. You guys just take that back. Now, that's the one thing about having a quick strike and a powerful offense, and that's what Kansas City has. Kansas City's a great football team. Absolutely great. And they can beat you 1,000 different ways. You got arguably the best tight end in the league. You got a top 5 wide receiver in the league. You've got running backs that realistically are pieces. Like could you imagine if Kareem Hunt was still on that team? Like you've got guys that you can just kind of plug in and they're going to get you points. But you got Patrick Mahomes too. And Mahomes is an absolute savage. I think I was more blown away and more taken aback at how Tennessee dismantled Baltimore.
That's what everyone's kind of talking about as well. Like they limited Lamar Jackson. I mean, he got his stuff off, but unfortunately for Baltimore, their season was unbelievably, in the regular season was awesome. People pegged them to be maybe a real contender to win the Lombardi Trophy, and they're out.
Dude, before you blinked, it was 14-0, and you were like, wait, 14? Like, how? Is this really what's going on right now? And then Tennessee never let go. And again, you talk about a stud running back. Derrick Henry's an absolute freaking savage.
1 pick away, bro. We were 1 pick away.
I like how you posted that on Twitter.
I died. I usually know those, and that's what I'm kind of known for a little bit online, is to kind of highlight a little bit of the misses of the Detroit Lions. When I saw that one, I was like, no. You got to be kidding. For those that don't know, back, I believe, in 2016, in the second round, it went Derrick Henry to the Titans. The Detroit Lions select A'Shawn Robinson. The very next pick, Michael Thomas. And you realize A'Shawn's going to be gone. Those 2 guys before and after, it's the perfect sandwich of, oh shit, we fucked up.
Those are 2 all-pro players right there.
It's unbelievable how bad the Lions are in the second round. But that's why actually, I think what happens is for me, is the entire regular season, watching the Lions is just kind of misery. And then that gets flushed away late December, and then early January, good football starts. Yeah. We get a month of good football. And I definitely revel in watching the playoffs because good football teams are battling. You see the ebbs and flows. You see these coaches trying to match up against each other. And guess what you saw? Plays. You saw plays being made across the board. The Niners, Green Bay, even Minnesota. Teams that even were losing, you saw plays being made. You saw comebacks, a couple overtime games this playoffs. So for me, that month of immersing yourself and watching other teams has been awesome. It just makes up for all the garbage that we watch with the Detroit Lions. They're far away, bro. They are definitely far away. The more you watch playoff football, the more you realize the Lions wouldn't compete. They wouldn't make plays. If they got into the postseason, you'd see fumbles, you'd see interceptions, you'd see epic mistakes at the highest level. So I can't wait to see what happens this weekend. For me, probably the A+ game is going to be Chiefs-Niners. Oh, Lord. That would be a great game. Maybe stylistically, Titans-Niners would be good, but I would love to see the Chiefs take on the 49ers. 2 offensive teams having a good old time.
Yeah, you know what? It'd be nice to see, especially that 49ers defense. That 49ers defense is so sick.
And we're going to talk about that too, because I have found somebody that I can rally behind. You're not supposed to cheer, but there's somebody that's coaching for the Niners that I'm very fond of, and it's going to be awesome to talk about.
That's so funny.
But obviously, once the Titans defeated Baltimore, I did it. Everybody did it.
Me and you,
right away.
The moment it happened, I even said, I was like, you know what we're talking about on Thursday.
how did the Lions pass on Mike Vrabel? Now, there's actually a subgroup on Twitter that's actually very passionate and very smart and wise, and they mix in and they get in and they push back a little bit on that notion. And the things that they've been saying are, look, you guys are just kind of throwing it out there that Mike Vrabel would have came to the Lions and with this roster would have done some things. He's like, you guys don't understand roster construction, that Vrabel is not doing things well, that he's the beneficiary of having Derrick Henry. Guys, you just kind of failed to ignore that he inherited Marcus Mariota. He noticed that, our offense is garbage. He noticed that, hey, I think that we may potentially could have an advancement of the cause here with the Detroit Lions if, potentially speaking, we make a tough decision. So what does he do? Yanks out the franchise quarterback. No longer in. Marcus Mariota, hit the bench, bro. We're going to play Ryan Tannehill. You give him no credit for that? That's supreme credit. That it basically indicates that he would have took Stafford if he's with this team, and he would have sat his ass on the bench and put in Driscoll and won games. Okay, you have to give him credit for that. Yes, he obviously inherited a better roster, but he's a better coach. I think that the relatability factor is the factor that all those guys that push back against me that said, oh, no, Vrabel would not have done good here. You guys are just, trying to raise the masses and troll and everything. No, relatability. What do you think I posted? Read the articles. He went on his offensive lineman's podcast, was talking about jerking off and talking about his first sexual experience and was laid back, drinking scotch, laying out. And he's like, look, ask me whatever you want. But I'm free to answer in any way possible. And then the best part was Lawan's like, okay, tell me about the first time you jerked off. And he's like, bro, you know about this. You're like, what? He goes, yeah, we talked about that. He told the other co-host, yeah, we talked about that in the O-line room. I'm like, this guy is a bro's bro. Mm-hmm. You want to play for him. Now,
not the guy who's screaming at you, making you go outside in the middle of winter to practice when you got 4 upcoming indoor games.
Exactly, and that's the point. Now, Patricia is relatable. He does care, but you get the sense that Patricia runs that place like he's the boss. Like, hey, respect me or you're going to be gone. And it's kind of in a way that's
dictatorship.
Not dictatorship, professional. He wants to run it like Belichick. Whereas Vrabel took the best parts of Belichick, but is also one of the guys. You know what I mean? He's a player. That's the part that people don't want to understand, is that Patricia never suited up. You don't get that respect, okay? You know what I mean? In terms of what goes on in a locker room, there's certain guys that when they walk in, you stand at attention. Vrabel was in the trenches. He took the hits. He took the tackles. He played with and got coached by Bill Belichick. You understand? He played for the man, and he also understood that, there's probably some things that Bill did that players don't like. You have to be able to adapt to these young cats, okay? You get a sense that Patricia is a solid coach, knows his shit, gets his team prepared. But do these guys die out for this guy? No, because guess what? Late in games, they're always making mistakes. They're always doing stuff that doesn't make any sense, the Detroit Lions. So when you look at the question, how did the Lions miss out on Mike Vrabel? He never had a chance. Mm-hmm. It was
Matt Patricia all the way.
It was Patricia targeted, and the rest were just token interviews. And I think that's why I wrote that article, our quote-unquote friend hires causing a problem for the Detroit Lions. I don't think Matt Patricia was the best guy for the job. No. I think Mike Vrabel would have been the best guy for the job based on the fact that you now see 2 9-7 seasons, playoff success, and going into situations where you're a massive underdog and balling out. So I'm disappointed yet again knowing that the Detroit Lions had a chance to have a coach, and now we're witnessing what he can do for somebody else.
And it's really interesting, too, because I'm not so blind to just be like, it's all Mike Vrabel. It's all, no, it's not. It's also John Robinson, who is the general manager. But if you look a little bit closer, you realize the Tennessee Titans and the Detroit Lions were 2 organizations that were essentially in the same exact spot back at the end of 2017. Both teams 9-7. Both teams second in their division. Both teams looking to make coaching adjustments, right? The Lions just missed out on the playoffs. Tennessee just eked into the playoffs, right? So both of these franchises were in the same exact spot. Both of them have their same general managers from that same exact season back in 2017. The only thing that changed was the head coach. That's it. And you bring in a head coach like Mike Vrabel to the Tennessee Titans, and like you said, he's relatable. He's a guy who gets it. He's a guy who, when you come in, like you said, you stand at attention, right? He's also a guy who has a general manager who understands what his head coach needs, and you have a head coach who knows exactly what he needs. Like, we're going to go back to the whole Ryan Tannehill thing. All right. Do you guys realize at this year's draft, they gave up a 7th round pick and they gave up next year's 4th round pick for Ryan Tannehill? Ryan Tannehill just led you to beat the New England Patriots, just led you to beat the best team in football in the Baltimore Ravens, and now has you set on a collision course to go up against one of the most powerful offenses in football right now. Like just think about that. Ryan freaking Tannehill.
Balling out, making plays.
And that's because he recognized what he had on his roster. He understood, hey, maybe Marcus Mariota's not the best guy for us. Maybe he isn't. Maybe we kind of alter our offense and we go more ground and pound with Derrick Henry, just force feeding him the ball, put the ball in Ryan Tannehill's hands to make plays when we need plays made, and let's lean on our defense, which is causing havoc. And that's what he did. That's a guy who understands what he has. When Matt Patricia's up at a podium talking, and he's talking about this defense, we're just a couple plays away. We're just a couple. Like, every single game, you're a couple plays away. I mean, I can watch a football game, and I can think of, I don't know what a couple is to you, but I see at least 10 to 15 plays that you're away. Like, you're not even close. And it's because you put your guys in bad spots. You don't put your team in a spot to make a play. You leave your guys hanging out there. Hey, thank God you went out there, you corrected this offense, right? I was not high on Bevel when he was coming in. I was not. I will be the first one to tell you I was wrong on Darrell Bevel. I renamed him Darren Bevel, okay? Because I was like, he gets zero respect for me until he does something. You know what? He did something. He was out there keeping you in games with second and third string quarterbacks, all right? On the flip side, your head coach cut your legs out from beneath you every single game because he's so beholden and he's so stubborn, and he needs to prove that his system works when all his system has done is get you in trouble and force your guys to be in bad spots and cost you games. And then on top of all of that, by not being relatable, by not taking that step back, by not being a guy who can read the room, you have traded guys away who are either Pro Bowl players or guys who are all pro players or guys who can make plays, guys who have worth in this league. Look no further than Quandre Diggs, who was just playing in the playoffs and lost to Green Bay on what could have been a phantom call. You know what I'm saying? You have guys in this league that you just shoo away because you don't want to deal with them, because they have the audacity to question you, to say, hey, coach, maybe this isn't the best move. Maybe this isn't the best play. They have the audacity to say, hey, maybe we try it this way, but you're so stubborn and you're so narrow-minded that you can't take a step back and say, you know what? He might have a point. Let's try it his way. And you know what? You try it his way, and you know, if it fails, it fails. Who cares? You're failing with your way. So what the hell's the difference?
I think you can almost start to pinpoint a little bit what the secondary might have complaints with. Okay, think about it. If the defensive line's not getting enough pressure, okay, what's going to end up happening? In a league that's set up for passing, right?
Yeah.
There is no way a corner can cover that long.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think what's being told back to Diggs and Darius Slay is, look, do your job no matter what. It's complementary football that in terms of the coverage, in terms of the pressure, hey, if we don't get there, you guys got to do your job and make sure that these guys don't catch the ball. And they're looking at it like, dude, we have no chance to make a play in this defense because of the fact that a quarterback has 10 seconds to survey the landscape. Someone's going to get open. And I think you have to be mad. You look at that and you go,
absolutely.
He's like, dude, we have no chance. And the coach is like telling us to ball out and make the plays. That has to be frustrating because you know, I can't go in here and do my job. It will never work. And the coach is telling you, make it work. Yeah. He's telling Diggs and Slay, those guys better not be running open on key plays. And you're like, well, if the quarterback has 15 seconds and can survey the landscape, like Dak Prescott said twice, there's no opportunity for you in a league at all.
Like, how do you want me to hold up when that's going on?
Exactly. And
so look at the San Francisco 49ers, all right? We've talked about the 49ers, and we've compared them to the Detroit Lions a couple of times on this specific podcast, okay? The 49ers, their general manager is a former
player.
Safety. Yes, he is a guy who played in the league. He understands complementary football, like you said. He understands from that position, from playing in the secondary, he understands his job is 10 times easier if he's got a defensive line that can put pressure on a quarterback. So what do I have to do? I've got to get you some dogs who can play in the trenches. I got to get you some dogs who can play in that secondary level as linebackers. I got to get you some guys who have bark and who have bite and who can get to the quarterback and make their life a living hell. And look at what San Francisco's doing. All right, look at the 49ers. 49ers have one of the better defenses in the league, okay? And it's not all Nick Bosa. Nick Bosa's a terror. You know, I love watching Nick Bosa play. As a Michigan fan, I love watching Nick Bosa play. I think it's fantastic. That guy is all over the field. He is everywhere. There's not one spot that guy is not running. He is sideline to sideline every single down, and he is trying his damnedest to take that quarterback out. And that's a defense that understands if we get pressure on the quarterback, it makes everybody better. Instead, you've got a head coach here who's going to show you a 4-man front, and then he's going to send you 4 guys. Or he's going to show you a 3-man front, and he's going to only send 3 guys. Like, what the hell else are the rest of the guys doing? Everybody else is just kind of sitting out here occupying a space. Like, no, just get pressure on the quarterback. Dak Prescott said it perfect. We knew what they were going to throw at us, and we just kind of ran with it. I had enough time to make my reads and then go back through my reads again. Like, that right there tells you everything you need to know about this defense and how broken this team is. When your head coach and your general manager are so damn stubborn to believe that they have all the answers and the proof's in the pudding. You went from being a 9-7 football team with Pro Bowlers and all pro players to being a 6-10 team to them being a 3-12-1 team. Okay, and I understand you want to put that on the fact that your quarterback got hurt. But you know what? Go look closer. Look at the game film. You were in games with backup quarterbacks. Your defense let you down repeatedly, okay? You're so damn stubborn that you can't get out of your own way because you think you were the smartest guys in the room, and you're not.
100%. And then you realize, okay, those that are messaging us and saying, you guys just, expect way too much from Matt Patricia. It's only year 2. Matt LaFleur did in year 1.
Right.
Year 1. In the NFC title game.
Matt LaFleur has won, 12 games this regular season? Matt LaFleur has more wins in one season than Matt Patricia has in two. I mean, and look, honestly, look at these teams. Look at both these teams. Right now, where they're at in their careers, I would take Matt Stafford over Aaron Rodgers. All right? Call me an idiot. It's fine. Aaron Rodgers, I don't think is an elite quarterback anymore. I think he is one of those guys where he has games where he still plays really, really big, but he has other games where he's kind of all over the place. I mean, go back to week 17. You're a Lions fan. Go back to week 17. He was giving you that game. He was giving it to you, and you guys couldn't take it. And right now, Matt Stafford, I believe, is slightly better than Aaron Rodgers. Okay? So if you want to say that the quarterback is the difference, I think you're wrong. Okay? If you look defensively, you went out and you got the number 1 defensive end in free agency. You brought him here. Really and truly, Green Bay just kind of retooled a little bit. They didn't do a whole lot. Honestly, Green Bay is a weird place where they believe in drafting guys and building guys up and then slotting them in. That's how they do things in Green Bay. They don't go out. They don't spend a ton of money on free agent. Most of their guys, I think they're one of the only teams that have, I think it's like 80 to 85% of their roster is constructed with draft picks. It's absolutely insane the way that they build that team. You, on the other hand, go out and you just backed up a Brinks truck to Trey Flowers. All right? You went out and you drafted a couple guys and you plugged them in. I mean, Jared Davis has been playing on this team and looks like a goddamn top just spinning around out there as guys are blowing by him. Look at their offense. What does their offense consist of? Devontae Adams is a really good wide receiver. Other than him, who else do they have? They got a bunch of guys that just kind of fill in. You know what I'm saying? Adams is a really good running back, right? But he came out of nowhere. Like, really and truly, he came out of nowhere. He was okay last year, and then this year, I think he had, 21, 22 touchdowns on the season so far? I mean, it's one of those things where you have a head coach who helped you build guys up. Your head coach has done none of this. None of this. What has Kerryon Johnson given you besides headaches because he's always hurt? So whether that goes on your GM or whether that goes on your head coach, I'm not 100% sure. I'm not in that room. Okay, and neither one of those guys will tell you actually what's going on. But what I will tell you is Matt LaFleur looks like he has the pulse of his room a lot better than Matt Patricia does, and he's only in year 1. So I'm not 100% sure, guys, what's going on here. And for all you Matt Patricia supporters, we're like, oh, no, he needs more time. Does he really? Does he? Because Matt LaFleur came in, and he's got these guys playing for a division title right now and a chance to go play in the Super Bowl.
All you got to ask is, if you put Matt Patricia on any of these playoff teams, you think any of them are where they're at?
No.
Absolutely not.
No.
Nowhere. It's just you feel like the biggest complaint that people had about Patricia's defense is that it's too soft. It doesn't put the players in the best position to succeed, and bend don't break doesn't work. And nobody in Detroit wants that.
And let's look at this, right? Look at the head coaches on all 4 of these teams that are still playing. Every single one of these guys is relatable to their players. Matt LaFleur, you've seen the embrace between Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur on the sideline, okay? Andy Reid is forever and a day known as a player's coach. You got Shanahan in San Francisco, huge player's coach, right? Big-time guy, player's coach. We've just talked about Mike Vrabel sharing stories about masturbating. You know, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but that's a dude who I want to go work with. That's a dude who I've got no problem laying it on the line. You're going to tell me about your jerk-off story? Let's roll, bro. Because I know deep down, me and you, we're soulmates. We're freaking homies. All right? And I'm gonna high-five you with my right hand, and it's going to be wiped clean, and it'll be cool, and we're going to be boys. I'm right-handed if you didn't know. All right? I mean, I'm just saying, these 4 coaches that are here, they get the most out of everybody that they have. All right, I don't think that there's so much better with the X's and O's. I just think the team and the players want to play for these guys because they're relatable. Matt Patricia's not relatable. He's like your crotchety old uncle who's a dick. You don't like him. You don't like seeing his ass at Thanksgiving. You don't like seeing him at Christmas. You look at your mom and you're like, oh man, is Uncle George gonna be there? And she's like, yeah, he's gonna be there. And you're like, God, it sucks. He always makes inappropriate comments. He's a total asshole to everybody. And you're just sitting there at the end of the night waiting for some random racist comment to come from Uncle George, who's just living in freaking the caveman days because he's a bonehead. And you're just like, God, you ruin everything that you come around. Matt Patricia. I'm just saying, Matt Patricia. There's my correlation, Matt Patricia.
Well, and look, I have to say this. When you look at the teams that are remaining, it's quite awesome that Robert Saleh, Middle Eastern
That's your boy,
defensive coordinator. And, bro, people have the utmost respect for him. On a defensive side, aggressive.
Can you?
I was dying. I was like, no, please don't go to the Browns. Don't ruin your career. The Browns went somewhere else. Now there's a chance the stars could align that Saleh does a great job, wins the Super Bowl, stays on the staff 1 more year. Patricia bombs out. Look, I have to say it. I'm hoping for like 7 wins for the Lions next year. And then he gets blown out. Saleh comes in, Dearborn guy. I think the stars align, and it would be amazing on every level.
Will you tell everybody what you texted me about this when this was going on?
I said
I was dying. I was dying last
I said,
Friday.
cause I found out Salah's Arabic. I seen the profiles. He's Lebanese from Dearborn, has a key to the city. Bro, forget it. I'm showing up in the flag. I'm playing the music. He comes out. I'm bringing the hummus, the tabbouleh. I'm bringing all the chicken. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to set up that stand. I'm going to be like, amen. Look.
Kefka for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Here's what we're going to do. I think you guys all love food, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to set up the shish kebab stand. I'll stand there, and it's going to be like 2 huge shishas of meat, and I'll stand there, cut it for anybody that wants it, and we're going to celebrate and stink up the joint with garlic, and it's just going to be like, you know how they have like Perrier's or Diet Coke? We're going to have like garlic all over the place. You're like, what the hell? And we're going to Arab that shit out. It's going to be awesome.
Mind you guys, he sent me all of this through text message. I was dying. I just responded back with, you're an idiot and I love you. Because it's so funny to me. Because I know you're 100% serious.
And he's a minority, so it works out. It could happen.
The Rooney Rule in effect. It's so funny. But honestly, do you think, and this is just me and you talking right now, do you think he could come into Detroit with the way this roster is currently set up, right? So if everything you say happens, right? Matt Patricia bombs out. The Fords end up reaching deep in their pocketbook and they buy him out of his contract and send him on his merry way. Do you think he's a guy who can come in and would have success his very first season?
No doubt about it. I think that he understands what to do. He'd come in and he'd have, some pressure that would work. He'd adapt to the talent on the roster. I think that probably first year 7 wins. I think that you could expect that if you keep Matthew Stafford or you get that young guy. If he goes with the notion of, hey, I need a better quarterback, maybe Matthew Stafford will be gone. Maybe the first couple of years you struggle a little bit and then you come back and you build through the draft, but you got to have a good GM.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is going to be is if, the Lions blow out Quinn and Patricia, who's that GM going to be?
Right.
That's the biggest thing, and that's the biggest key. So,
and you know what? Here, and you look at the Lions, right? They go out and they grab they grab the secondaries coach from Philadelphia to be their new defensive coordinator. Now they're not going to allow him to make play calls. He's basically just going to be a figurehead, just like Pasqualoni was. And if you ask me, if you played any amount of fantasy football this past season, and you had a wide receiver that was going up against Philadelphia, you knew your wide receiver was going to feast. Because honestly, Philadelphia's secondary was absolute trash this year. So again, another garbage pickup and another garbage signing by another garbage program in the Detroit Lions. Let's go grab a guy who is a position coach for a position for a team that wasn't very good. Like the Philadelphia Eagles secondary was trash. Like when I say trash, I mean it was an utter dumpster fire this year. They weren't very good. And that honestly, that defense isn't really bad. That defensive line is pretty solid, and their linebackers are pretty good. But that secondary is abysmal. That secondary got picked apart. So like, if you honestly go back and look at your fantasy numbers, like sometimes fantasy football is all you need. Go back, look at your fantasy numbers. If you had a wide receiver that played against Philadelphia, look at how good they did. I mean, I bet you even like your second option as a wide receiver still put up big points against that secondary because they were so damn bad. It's just not good.
Now, after the national title game, people are definitely paying attention to the draft. And for the Detroit Lions, maybe one name could have potentially moved up to the conversation at number 3, and that's Isaiah Simmons, because he's a freakish linebacker that's very versatile. People look at him. So right now, it's basically going to be 3 guys right now that are really high on the draft board. It's going to be Okudah, Derek Brown, and Isaiah Simmons. Any of those guys, you say, okay, the Detroit Lions got to take, and then 2, before we take our first time out, you okay with the Detroit Lions going offense in the second round? They take the running back, they figure out what to do, because a lot of people are okay with Ty Johnson, Kerryon Johnson, and Bo Scarborough going into 2020 with maybe an addition that's pretty cheap via free agency. Me personally, I would think that, Swift is okay from Georgia. I would say that potentially Jonathan Taylor is awesome. If you want to get that running back in the first round and you say J.K. Dobbins, you want to highlight him. That guy's a workhorse and can do some things. He highlighted a lot of people. So, I look at it and I say, potentially speaking, why not maybe look to the offense in the second round if you pick that defender? How are you looking so far at the draft? I think you'd be okay with Okudah and Brown. Probably the name that would probably upset you would be if the Lions targeted maybe an offensive lineman with that 3rd pick. I don't think that would probably piss a lot of people off. Exactly.
That wouldn't make me very happy. I don't mind Derek Brown. I don't mind Isaiah Simmons. Either one of those guys, and I'm kind of in lockstep with you, right? Where if they address the defense first round and then you go and you grab your running back in the second. I mean, obviously, running back's a problem with this team. Kerryon Johnson can't stay healthy. You can't give him the ball the amount of times that he needs to where he's going to be a productive running back. It just, you can't do it. I think I had a stat last year where if he touched the ball, I think it was 15 to 17 times, the Lions won games. Not last season when they went 3-12-1, but when they went 6-10. The thing is, his body breaks down as the season wears on. He's not built for that amount of workload. He just isn't. So he's a better option as either either splitting carries or as a change of pace back, a la Theo Riddick, which sucks if you're the Lions because you invested heavily in this guy and you basically got Theo Riddick, and you could have had Theo Riddick for much cheaper. But no, I don't have a problem with that. The way I would love to see this kind of work out is, and I don't know if it will because I don't know what the values are, and I don't know how you could make it work or how you could swing it. But if you could trade back with Miami and then either get Derek Brown or Isaiah Simmons or Okudah with that 5th pick, or was it the 4th pick? 4th or 5th pick, I don't remember off the top of my head, and somehow get one of their late round draft picks. Like even if you trade your first and you add a 4th, or you trade your first and you add a 5th, something to kind of get you back into that first round where they're going to have to give you 2 first-round picks, and maybe you guys swap, I don't know, a 4th or a 5th, or you swap a 6th, something. But able to get you back into that later half of that first round, and Jonathan Taylor's there. I've fallen in love with Jonathan Taylor. I think he reminds me so much of Saquon Barkley, where he's just a guy who you can just feed the ball all day long, and he's never going to let you down. And it just seems like the more you give him the rock, the stronger he gets, the more powerful he becomes, because he's just wearing down defenses, and he just never seems to tire. If you could pair him with a guy like Kerryon Johnson or even Ty Johnson, I mean, you tell me, right? You've got you got Jonathan Taylor as basically your lead back, then you've got Kerryon as your number 2, and then you've got Ty Johnson basically coming in to spell these guys. You mean to tell me that's not a much better backfield than Bo Scarborough, Ty Johnson, and Kerryon Johnson? Look, I think Johnson and Scarborough is a great name for a law firm, but these guys aren't handing out any verdicts here, all right? I mean, they're getting taken to court all day long because they're just not that good. There's a reason Bo Scarborough wasn't in the league until the Lions needed a running back. You know what I'm saying? So, no, I have no problem with what you're saying. I would like it to be done a little bit different because I want that high-end running back. I want Jonathan Taylor. I think that guy is going to be an absolute animal at the next level.
Ooh. I do got a good feeling that Bob Quinn at least going to hit in the 1st and 2nd round. He right now is scouting the Shrine game. The 1st, 2nd round should be okay this year. Later on is where you're going to have to fill out. I just think that right now, when you look at it objectively, there's too many holes, man. You got to fill 2 positions on the defensive line, potentially upgrade the linebacker, secondary. If you move on from Darius Slay, Graham Glasgow on the offensive line, you got to worry about Matthew Stafford. The puzzle pieces don't add up for a lot better. It probably adds up to another 6 to 8 win team. It doesn't add up to me playoff contention to go from 3 wins with all the holes that you got. And then you got to remember, these teams are going to get better. Those teams in the playoffs, you think they're going to get worse? They're going to fall off? No, they're going to get better. Russell Wilson, you got these young cats all over the place. You got the Bears that could potentially pick up in your own division. You got Minnesota to deal with now. I don't see it. I just don't see it. I think it's going to be a tough go around this next year. I see improvement. I think that you could sell me that they'll be back for year 4, but I don't see playoffs in 2020 at all. Unless you get that running back and you get Matthew Stafford healthy and you start making those plays, I don't see how letting go of Glasgow, potentially Slay, makes you a better football team. I just don't see it.
Yeah, I don't see it either.
Exactly.
I'm not sure how. I mean, again, you're going to let 2 pieces walk who have been 2 of your better pieces. None of that makes sense, right? Like
exactly.
You're struggling.
We'll be talking about the same things next year, 12 months.
It's freaking nuts, man. The way this team is put together, it's so frustrating. Let's let 2 of your better players go from areas of need. That makes sense.
Yeah. All right, we'll take our first time out. We'll come back. Stay with us. We'll come back, and we got to visit and check in with the Detroit Red Wings. Steve Yzerman made an appearance. Hasn't spoken since early in the season. He spoke and was interviewed by Ken Kal, and we'll review that and discuss a lot of things going on with the Red Wings. Stay with us. You're listening to Doc and Jock. The reason why we're able to keep the lights on and the studio mics hot here in our Sterling Heights studio is thanks to the great sponsors that work with the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. And the 2 great sponsors this week are the Motor City Pawnbrokers and the Flick Chat application. The Motor City Pawnbrokers are the one-stop pawn shop when you're in need of short-term cash or are looking for quality, brand-name new and pre-owned merchandise with locations in Detroit, Ferndale, Roseville, and Warren. Their mission is to deliver exceptional value. For all information regarding the pawn shops, go online today and visit MotorCityPawnbrokers.com. That's MotorCityPawnbrokers.com. And if you're in the area, if you're near Detroit, Ferndale, Roseville, Warren, go inside one of the locations, ask for Mark and the crew. They'll provide you great customer service. They're dedicated each and every day to change the stigma regarding pawn shops. Real clean, great customer service. They're looking to help you find the best deals available. You can find out today all the great happenings at the Motor City Pawnbrokers by visiting MotorCityPawnbrokers.com. If you've agreed or disagreed with anything that you've heard in the first segment regarding the Lions, if you're still on board with Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn, if you think that we're being haters, go download the Flick Chat application and let us know. Adam and I, all the podcast hosts, we get on there, we debate all things happening in Detroit sports. All you got to do is go find your favorite app store, whether it be the Google Play Store or the Apple Store, and download Flick Chat. And once you download the app, all you got to do is join the Detroit Sports headquarters. All you got to do, find that little plus sign, and then you enter these 3 letters, DSP. all lowercase, and boom, you're entered instantly. And Flick is a great place to chat. You can create your own forums. It's like a large message board via the phone, and it's great because during live games, during all the contests, if there's breaking news regarding the Detroit Lions, you'll find us there, and we're reacting live. And it's a great place to kind of organize with all the fans. And if you're a big fan of podcasts, you can find and download your favorite podcast right there via Flick. Go there today. Don't miss out on Detroit Sports' newest headquarters, the Flick Chat application.
That's a bit of a throwback.
That's right.
Where's Ginger been at? He's lost.
Buried.
With the rest of the mid-card in WWE. You guys can check that out every single Friday right here on the network.
The DocNJock Wrestling Podcast doing great numbers. I think a lot of people definitely find it each and every Friday. Now, Cuz, are you in favor or do you disagree with Steve Yzerman kind of taking the Bob Quinn approach? He speaks a little bit more than Bob Quinn, but it doesn't seem like he's going to be right there out in front of the media all the time. He did recently do an interview with Ken Kal, kind of talked about the process, saying it's going to take time and things like that, kind of broke down some of the players and discussed the fact that, day in, day out, he's observing, he's monitoring. I think that one of the big things that people took away was he kind of made it known that he's probably not going to make Jeff Blashill the scapegoat over what's going on, that it's just kind of a situation where you got a lot of young cats, they're learning the system, they're putting together things in place as to what's going on with the Red Wings, but the play as of late still doesn't give a lot of people confidence regarding the Red Wings. You are seeing some glimmers of hope. You're seeing Zadina come in and actually perform. You're seeing some good quality play from some younger players, but unfortunately, in terms of the goaltending, the defense, it's a mess right now in terms of a lot of things happening on the ice, but at the same time, I think a lot of people, when they heard what Steve Yzerman had to say, kind of came away with it and said, okay, you know what? This is a man that definitely understands what's going on. He's got a complete understanding of all the facets of what's going on, but now he's got to actually decide what to do. And he said it's going to take patience, but he wants to acquire more draft picks. And I think that's, at the starting point, not a bad way to go. What was your reaction to what you heard from Steve Yzerman talking to Ken Kal?
So first off, I thought it was great. I loved what he did. It's very rare that you ever get to see a general manager be as candid as he was. And he really didn't come out and give you a whole ton, but he let you know where his mindset was, which was fantastic. He talked about specific players, like you said, and he let you kind of know where that was. He talked about guys in the minor league system and kind of where their track is and what might happen as the season unfolds. He basically let you know that, hey, this hasn't been good enough. It just hasn't been. But if you're expecting this to be done overnight, we're not there. And he did the comparison to Tampa Bay and what Tampa Bay had compared to what the Red Wings have. And I thought that was fantastic because everybody's first initial reaction is, oh, well, he was able to do this in Tampa Bay, and look at what Tampa Bay has, and look at what's going on in Tampa Bay. Well, they're set up a little bit different. And I think he did a fantastic job bringing that point to the forefront and then kind of elaborating on it and discussing it. I love this. It's very rare that you ever get something like this. And on top of it, he lets you know that, look, I'm not going to be doing these things all the time. This was one of those things where it's like a mid-season recap, you know? So he's come out, he talked in the beginning of the year. And then it was more at the time of his introduction as the general manager. He's going to do a midseason recap, and then he'll talk at the end of the year. And I think as a general manager, as things kind of go on and the seasons unfold, and you have to remember, hockey's a very long season. Hockey's 82 games. It's honestly, it starts in October, and basically the hockey season doesn't end until the beginning to mid-June. That's if you make the playoffs. Otherwise, it's ending sometime in April. All right, that's a really long time. So this guy's working nonstop. And like you said, he's reviewing what's going on in Grand Rapids. He's reviewing and scouting other players in other leagues. He's checking in on local guys who are playing in college around here and in other colleges around the United States. So he has his hands full. For a guy to break away and give you this interview ended up being roughly 16 minutes long, which in actuality, it was probably closer to an hour and a half of his legitimate time. One, to get ready for it. Two, after they kind of cut everything out that was either ancillary or didn't need to be in there. And by the time he got done with all the minutia of going through it all, it was probably an hour and a half of his time. That's a lot of time for a guy who's really, really busy. And as I watched this, I even made a comment out loud. I was like, man, Steve Yzerman looks freaking fantastic, you know? Like, Steve Yzerman is one of those dudes where if your chick banged him, you'd be like, yeah, I get it. He's a good-looking guy. Steve Yzerman always looks like he rolled out of bed, though. Like, his hair, always it's always cool and like slicked to the side, but the back of it's just disheveled. I never understood that. But you can just tell this dude just grinds. He's just busy. Just busy. He's a busy dude doing busy things. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic because here in Detroit, what you end up getting is you get general managers like Al Avila who probably give you a little bit too much and say way too much about certain players and what they're looking to do. And then on the other hand, you've got guys like Bob Quinn who probably don't say enough. And I feel like in this almost 17-minute interview, Steve Yzerman gave you exactly what you needed, told you everything you needed to know, and let you know what direction this organization is going and what they're looking to do. I thought it was fantastic.
With Steve Yzerman, I think he gets the credibility because of the fact he's had success with Tampa Bay, and many people just naturally believe. And that gets you, you get you a free pass for a year. I think in Detroit, what people do is I think they always give the new coaching staff, the new general manager 1 year. They always give everybody 1 year. And then second year, you start to evaluate, okay, what are you doing? Did you fire the coach? Did you make some moves in the draft? Did you acquire some more talent? Do you wait too long? Do you make silly moves like the Pistons do and bring on bad contracts of guys that have injuries, and then 6 months later, a year and a half later, they get injuries, and they're not helping your team and taking a boatload of money from the organization? But I do think that Steve Yzerman and some of the early moves that he's made has seen dividends. You like the fact that he's saying, okay, outwardly that we're probably going to trade some people and try to acquire more picks?
Look, let me put it to you like this.
You tip his hand a little bit?
I don't think he necessarily tipped his hand. Again, he didn't pull an Al Avila. He didn't say, hey, this is what we're looking for to get for player X, Y, or Z. Do you know what I'm saying? He didn't do that. He told you where his mindset was. Look, we're looking to acquire picks. We're not good enough right now. We've got a lot of growing to do, and I've got to bring guys in who are going to help these young players continue to develop, and I've got to be able to build a future here. I don't think he really tipped his hand, but what I think Red Wing fans can kind of look at and really take some solitude in. Friday night, I went and I played hockey for the first time in roughly 6 months, okay? After the game, I was sitting there with one of my good buddies, and we were watching the Red Wing game. They were playing Ottawa, and we were just kind of discussing the state of the Red Wings, just kind of what's been going on with them and kind of where they're at. And he made a great point. One of the Red Wings' best young players is Fabry. Steve Yzerman traded away essentially a bag of pucks and 4 used dirty jock straps, and he got one of your best players. So if you're a Red Wing fan, you can look to that and say, okay, so this is the guy who's in charge. It gives you a little bit of self-confidence. Like, I get that things aren't going great right now. Like, they're absolutely garbage right now. They got destroyed the other night by the Islanders. Absolutely embarrassed. But what you can look at is the guy who's in charge of all of this knows what he's doing and is making hockey plays. And he knows hockey players. So he's going out there to get guys to fit into pieces that are going to make this team better. It's just going to take time because Ken Holland did such a poor job. Ken Holland mortgaged the future every single year trying to get into the playoffs, trying to keep a playoff streak alive. Like you go and you look at Dallas. I believe it was Mathiasen. It was a former player that the Wings drafted, and Ken Holland gave him up for dude ended up with a concussion and never really played for them. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but anyways, Ken Holland gave him up for a guy who roughly gave you 6 games and then retired. Like, he regularly just, okay, cool. You want this guy? He's a pretty solid prospect in our system, and just give me a guy, give me a veteran who's going to help limp us to the end here. And you're just kind of like, wait, what? Why would you do that? And honestly, Mathiasen is probably a guy who would be a third or fourth string player or a fourth line player on a really good organization. You know, he's in Dallas, or he was in Dallas, and I think he was a third-line player. Here he'd probably be, I don't know, maybe second, third. I don't know how it would end up working out. But again, Ken Holland regularly did this, and now Steve Yzerman's got to come in. He's got to help replenish all that, and he's got to get guys who are going to contribute. And I think Fabry is a guy who you can look at and you're like, all right, cool, it makes sense. Like, we get that. He didn't really give up a whole ton. We got a guy who can help contribute and is contributing, and you just feel confident that he's going to help build something for the future.
Now, one of the players that many people are fond of, that people are clamoring for to have the seat, is Dylan Larkin, okay? Now, a lot of people support him. A lot of people say, okay, this guy's the future. Me personally, I'm not fond of him. I think that one of the bold moves that Steve Yzerman can make is change the culture, trade Dylan Larkin. Because here's the situation, here's a couple things that he did, kind of showed his youth a little bit and kind of showed where his mindset's at. You know, he's getting interviewed and he's talking about the fact that, hey, you know, the fans, you know, maybe the voting's a little bit light on Dylan Larkin, and there's maybe only one or two Red Wings that are going to get represented in the All-Star game. He comes out and says, don't vote for me. I want to have the time off. That's and he got ripped for it nationally because of the fact that, hey, it's an honor. It's something that you should take pride in, to wear the jersey and to represent Detroit in the All-Star game. You don't go out publicly and say that. And I think that was a misstep, and he got ripped for it nationally. And a lot of the pundits said something that, they stood up for the All-Star game and said, hey, it's an honor. Don't treat it like it's a vacation and things like that. And I think it's a trend, too, nationally all across the NHL. Some of the athletes don't want to go. But that's here nor there. Dylan Larkin shouldn't have said that. He put his foot in his mouth. Then he did an interview with Brad Galley from WXYZ Channel 7. I don't know if you caught it. He said something that definitely, it was in good spirit, but not something that I walked away and said, oh, wow, this is the guy. He was asked by Brad Galley, hey, do you think one day you can be a 100-point guy? And he said, yeah, it's potentially likely, but I'm really content and happy being a 60-point guy if I play good defense. And he says that, and I walked away and I go, okay, we don't need you to be a 60-point guy. We need you to be a 100-point guy. Mm-hmm. And yes, defense is important, but that's not the way you want to answer that. The way you want to answer that is to say, look, I want to be the best player on the ice each shift possible. I want to help the Red Wings win. And so how does this guy become a captain when night in, night out, you're getting outworked by the opponent? Night in, night out, you're not playing that well. You have stretches of time where you're not scoring points. He's not ready. So for me, I think, Dylan Larkin, maybe a tad overhyped, not a guy that I'm definitely fond of, not a guy that I think in the next year or two is worthy yet of being the captain. Go out there and produce. Help your team win. Don't accept mediocrity. Don't go out there and get blown out 8-1 by the Islanders. Don't go out there and make critical mistakes game in and game out. You're about to get your coach fired. And when you come out and say those kind of things, it just rubbed me the wrong way. So I'm all in favor of Yzerman going, I don't see it. Yeah, he probably in 3 years sees it, but I, at this point in time, am disappointed in the play of Dylan Larkin.
I agree with you. I agree with you 110%. Real quick, it was I think it was 2014. It was Eric Cole and a third-round pick from the 2015 NHL draft for Matthias Backman and Matthias Janmark for a second-round pick. So my bad on that. Backman never really made it to the NHL. He's playing overseas somewhere. And Janmark hasn't quite been the player that I think everybody wished he would be. A 25 points, maybe a 30-point guy. So again, third line, maybe a fourth line center for you. But as far as Dylan Larkin is concerned, I have a lot of issues with the way Dylan Larkin plays hockey. I have a lot of issues with...
I think you're on the same boat. We look at him and go, this guy should be better.
Yeah, a lot of the different things that he does do. Now, Dylan Larkin was a guy who has been given a lot, maybe too much too soon. Remember, played at University of Michigan, was pretty good. Left after his first year and has essentially started in the NHL ever since. Never really had that developmental time in Grand Rapids. Has been essentially handpicked by the organization to be your next captain. Whether he's wearing the C or not, he is the guy who it really feels like will be the guy who's going to wear the C. Things that Dylan Larkin does regularly in a game that really bother me. There are things that goal scorers do. And this just might not be Dylan Larkin's game, right? I mean, all players aren't created equal. All players do bring different things to the table. I mean, one of the things about Adam Oates, if any of you longtime hockey fans remember Adam Oates was fantastic at passing the puck. He had vision like nobody's business. He was absolutely incredible at it. Adam Oates played for the Red Wings for a time. The one thing about Adam Oates was he wasn't a huge goal scorer. All right. And I think at the time, the Red Wings really wanted a goal scorer. And Adam Oates just wasn't that guy. He was more of the setup guy. The one thing that Dylan Larkin doesn't do, maybe it's because he's more of a setup guy. Maybe that's his focus. His focus is to try to dish the puck, to pass the puck, to get other guys involved, which is fantastic. But you got to get the puck to guys and they got to score. And if that's not happening, then you're not really helping your team. Dylan Larkin never goes to the net. Dylan Larkin has a bad habit of skating up the wing and then circling behind the net and then circling back out into the front of the net and then just taking a shot. There's really no drive. If you ever watch Connor McDavid, you ever watch Sidney Crosby, you ever watch, I don't know, insert Alex Ovechkin. Alex Ovechkin's great at it. These guys have no problem putting their head down and going right to the net and putting the puck on net. By driving to the net and putting the puck on the net, what you're doing is you're forcing the goaltender to move. You're opening up seams, you're opening up cracks, and you're forcing that defense to then back up into the goaltender, right? What all that does is creates traffic, and then you get a scrappy young guy like Tyler Bertuzzi, who I absolutely love. I love Bertuzzi. Comes in and can put the puck away if you can't. All right? Dylan Larkin doesn't do enough of that. Dylan Larkin does a lot of, I'm going to skate it up the boards, I'm going to circle back around, and then just wings a shot at the net. And if it hits net, great. If it goes in, fantastic. But some of the times it's going wide, and if it's carrying off the boards, next thing you know, you got an odd man rush. And then what hockey becomes is it becomes odd man rush city, and your goaltending is not good enough to weather that storm. And next thing you know, you're losing games 8-2. Dylan Larkin, I feel like, could be a really good player. I think here the expectation is a little bit too high for him. I feel like he would be a solid second-line center anywhere else in the NHL. Here he needs to be the first-line center. He needs to be the guy. I don't think he's going to be the guy.
I think you and I probably agree that we've been impressed by Philippe Zadina, at least now this second run. He seems like he belongs on the ice, is finding the net, is finding the ability to find his positioning and feels more comfortable where he's at. So I just think that he needs to play. Him and Sekou just need to be up on the big clubs and just be up here learning as much as you can and make sure that the speed of the game doesn't take over. But I think this go around, he seems more comfortable.
Yes.
And Zadina, I think, is a guy that you can build around. Bertuzzi, just in terms of the roster, though, on defense and goaltending, you got to kind of have an overhaul, right? Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely.
Overhaul the defense and the goaltending.
The defense isn't very good. Look, Hronek is a guy I like. Bertuzzi, I absolutely love. Zadina, I like. Look, I don't know if even Lashaw I like, right? So Brian Lashaw, not necessarily a top 6 defenseman, but he's your 7th guy, right? So an injury happens, you need to slot a guy in. I like him. I don't think he has a huge ceiling, but I think he does a lot of things really, really well that get you by if for some reason you need a dude to go out there and play defense for you. You're not going to sub a forward in. This is a guy who's going to have limited ice time. This is a guy who makes smart decisions when he has the puck, and he's steady. Not going to be a big goal scorer. But I think you have a couple pieces defensively that you can build with, but you're right. Goaltending's absolute trash on this team. Jimmy Howard needs to go someplace. Your defense isn't very good on this team. It needs to be overhauled. As far as your forwards go, don't be surprised if a guy like Mantha's not kept around. Don't be surprised if a guy like Athanasiou's not kept around. Don't be surprised if those guys get traded away to bring in a bigger haul, whether it be a draft pick, a high-end draft pick, or whether it be some young prospect who looks like he might pan out a little bit better. I like Mantha. I like what Mantha does. I like how he plays. He's a guy who has no problem mixing it up, throwing blows, has no problem scoring goals. His problem is doesn't really like to play defense, and his hand always breaks because he's always getting into fights. You can't play when your hand's broken. You just can't, okay? It's impossible to do it. On top of all that, the way the Red Wings play hockey, you have to be able to play defense. That goes back to that point that Dylan Larkin was making. Look, I'm cool being a 60-point guy as long as I play good defense. Okay, so right there, you're just basically sucking your coach's wee-wee. That's what this comes down to, honestly.
Step it up and be a leader.
Right.
Get these guys, even though you might not have the best talent on the ice, you got to work hard.
Yes.
And you can't take games off, period.
I agree with you 110%.
So overall, I think that you and I are both waiting for the hammer to drop, and hopefully Jeff Blashill gets shown the door. It's not, it's business. And unfortunately, it's not that he's doing an awful job, but I think someone else could do a better job.
I'm just really surprised that it hasn't worked out. So this is a guy who took the Grand Rapids Griffins and helped won a Calder Cup, right? And this is a guy who really helped coach a lot of these young, talented guys up and got them their shot with the Red Wings. And then he comes to the Red Wings and he's got essentially a young roster. And it's like whatever he is saying just falls on deaf ears. It's like there's for some reason there's a disconnect there, and I don't know why.
Fresh voice. It's one of those times in the NHL and in coaching that sometimes you just need the next guy up to kind of reinvigorate the room.
You want Gerard Gallant? He was actually a line mate with Steve Yzerman back when we were kids.
See, I think once you go from Blashill, I think you need more of a player-friendly coach. Someone that's going to rile people up at the same time, can coach well, but can rally the troops a little bit. And sometimes you just have to go back and forth. Just not sure who that is just yet.
I gotcha.
All right, great podcast, sir.
It was fun, man.
Always good rapping about sports, talking Lions, Red Wings. I think the Pistons now are going to make some news in terms of finally blowing it up. It's not like two podcasters from Sterling Heights weren't telling you what the hell's going on with your roster, and you should have moved on from Andre Drummond a year ago. It's like, come on, man. You wait a year and a half after. That's what the sports teams are doing. They wait for a year and a half for the masses to kind of catch up a little bit and yell and scream at what they're doing, and then they go, oh, yeah, maybe we should have blew this up 2 years ago. Oh, yeah, guess what? Tom Goris, Andre stole your money and a bunch of it. And now you're going to let him go. And guess what? It's kind of hard to sell off on Andre Drummond to get a first-round pick when you're benching his ass. So that doesn't look right. Exactly. It's like, oh, yeah, give us a first-round pick. He's lazy and the coach doesn't want to play him. That's not how you market Andre Drummond. You should have did that last year when he was balling out a little bit and playing with Blake Griffin and making some noise in his double-doubles. So I think that's where the problem lies, is that nobody's going to give the Pistons a first-rounder. Or they're not going to give him what they want. So guess what? He's going to probably walk potentially. And they could make a move, but you're not going to get what you want, or he's going to leave sayonara without you getting jack shit.
I don't know if you're going to get what you want, and that might be the problem. There seems to be quite a bit of buzz around him.
Yeah.
So I think there is a market for him, which is weird to me. But I think more to your point, I don't necessarily know if you get what you want, which might be the problem.
But in some cases, addition by subtraction.
Exactly.
That team will be incrementally better without Andre Drummond.
You look at what happened the other night when they were playing, who was it? It was New Orleans, where they're playing the Pelicans. He got benched at some point in the third, and
he's lazy.
Next thing you know, Detroit makes a run, and Derrick Rose has a chance to win the game. It goes clang. It's one of those things where he's not on the court. Next thing you know,
balling out.
They're doing things.
For the Jock, Adam Strozinski, I am the Doc, John McEnroe. Thank you so much for tuning in to the latest edition of Doc and Jock. Each and every Thursday, you're going to find us two knuckleheads podcasting, and we greatly appreciate your support. It's been a fun ride. See you guys next week.
This was Locker Room Talk.
Second dick.
Sorry, Detroit. Didn't quite work out.
And all I can say is Detroit Sports Podcast scores.
I hear voices in my head. They counsel me. They understand. They talk to me.